Hey everybody, I'm really happy to be back here talking to you again. I fell off the planet for a little bit because we got the okay to open in May, which I did tell you about, but it was a little bit more involved than I thought it would be. Um, and the good news was that I had a tremendous amount of the background work done that the state now requires of us. And then we had to implement it all, and we had to uh, all of us had to be able to start working on the same page, and it's very different than it was before COVID shut all of us down. And so it was eating up a lot of my time, but we're back. I want to tell you what we're doing. We are open 2 days a week right now, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and we are accepting new patients. And one of the things that we had to get in place was the safety procedures so that you would be safe when you came to see us and we would be safe seeing you. The good news from my perspective is I had started all of that in March, and the document that I had to create, which was like, how do you do this? Here are the steps. For us internally is now required by the state for for all acupuncture clinics, and I'm really glad that I got mine done early, because I'll tell you what, man, I spent probably 30 hours on this document to produce a 10-page document, and it's still changing. Every time there's a new bit of information about a new understanding about how this virus works, that usually ends up with me having to make an amendment to this document. But okay, I'm telling you about the document in particular. I'm going to go through a little bit of the stuff on it in a minute, but I wanted you to know that this is a document that's available to our patients. After I get done with this recording, I'm going to put it up on the website, so anybody who wants to see what we're doing can see that. Essentially, the document starts out by explaining what we know about COVID-19 to date and how it spreads. And then it's just a bunch of sections on how do we clean the clinic? How do we clean the treatment rooms in between? Because we disinfect in between every patient. And what do we do if one of us gets sick? And what do we do if there is a surge, which could very well happen? I hope you I'm betting most of us are kind of going, no, it's done, it's done, it's done. I don't think it's done, but with any luck, we're going to be in a much better place to cope with people getting sick in the future. And we needed to have something in place to say, well, if somebody gets sick, what are our requirements by the state, and what are the suggestions from the CDC? It's all in the document. What we do now is we are scheduling. Well, we were scheduling patients like one every hour and 15 minutes. So there'd be a treatment room tied up. It was usually one patient and one practitioner at a time. Um, so there was a chance to see somebody for an hour's treatment, and then they would leave, and we could just disinfect the room, and then the room would sit and rest, giving the virus a chance to die, and before we would see the next people. Some of that has changed, so we will be able to start taking on more patients. We can stagger people, um, as long as y'all don't congregate and you don't meet in the hallway and you preserve the 6-foot distancing. We could actually be seeing more people than we are right now, which is very good news. Um, so what happens is, a patient, you make an appointment, and you're going to get a pre-screen, either a phone call, or I'm about ready to set something up so that when you get a reminder for your visit, you will get a survey to fill out. And the pre-screen is just a series of questions that says, do you have any of these symptoms? Have you been exposed to anybody who's sick with anything? Because it's hard to tell what might be COVID and what's just a summer cold. And if you can answer no to, like no temperature, no cough, then we have people call us from the parking lot, and we come out and meet you and take your temperature and run through the list again, make sure that everything's still the same as when we talked to you, and then bring you right into the treatment room. The waiting room is closed, so you come right into the treatment room and you have your treatment. Little bit of changes on that include the survey would mean that I don't have to make a phone call with, because I honestly forget. I can usually manage one group of people and then I get done with my work day and I'm like, it's just gone. I don't even think about it. So I don't do the pre-screen. So this will help a lot. We also wipe down all the surfaces. That's a requirement, maybe once every 4 hours. So we go around the sort of general surfaces, keyboards, phones, doorknobs, door sills, and the newest addition to our safety precautions is each room now has an air purifier, and the air purifier. This is interesting. If you want to check this stuff out, if you ever want to get one of these for yourselves, because you can find them for not too much money. They are all seem to be coming with UVC light. UVC light is actually used in hospitals, and apparently the exposure to the light sort of disorganizes the cell membrane on the virus, and that kills it. So those are running all the time that the clinic is in use. They can be run safely with people in the room, and so they're running while they're, so, you know, this is, we have done everything we can, and by the way, including masks. We're wearing masks all the time, and patients are wearing masks. So short of being like a hospital area, which is going to be exposed to much riskier situations, we're doing everything that the state requires, that the CDC suggests or requires, in order to be safe while we do this. So you can feel confident that if you'd like to return to acupuncture, if you'd like to start acupuncture, that you can do that safely. Let's see what else is on my list here. Oh yeah, if you've had me for a practitioner before, you might be kind of surprised because I'm now wearing scrubs. Not everybody is, but I'm wearing scrubs because I want to be able to change my clothes before I leave. And because I don't, you know, let's just say somebody was sick and I was exposed, that stuff's on my clothes. I don't want it in my car. So scrubs are just easy to get out of. It's very odd to me to be wearing scrubs. I feel like I have some sort of weird uniform. There will be some questions about testing for the virus. People are probably going to bring that up. It's been suggested to acupuncturists that our due diligence will include testing. I haven't quite figured out how we're going to be able to do that, because I just haven't been able to figure out how to do that. If you have been tested and you're coming for a treatment, you've been tested and you've been told that you did not test positive for COVID, you still need to wear a mask. Because from my perspective, with all the research I've done on this, that's just telling you that at the moment that you had that test, you weren't infected. You could be infected 3 days later. So you still need to wear a mask. And you know what, as safety precautions go, like, I know people, this is so contentious, this whole idea about wearing a mask. It's such a small thing to do, just in case. Like, the people who say are anti-mask, they could be right. They could be right that it's not useful or it's not necessary or whatever. Just in case. I mean, I'd far rather wear the mask and be a little uncomfortable than and be wrong than not wear the mask, and which I had. So masks are required. Most of you are doing that already because it's also required in the state. So that's kind of what that's enough to bring you up to date on how we're operating. If you have been a patient in the past and you would like to come back for acupuncture, come on back. We're very happy to see you. And if you're considering acupuncture and you're considering our clinic for your treatment, give us a call. I'll put the information up at the end of this so that you can figure out how to get in touch with us. Now, I've been thinking a lot about what kind of videos I'd like to be setting up here going forward, because there's going to be, I think, and experts are now saying there's going to be quite a bit of fallout for us as humans for many reasons. I mean, I don't know about you, but 2020, we could go to another year now, as long as it was boring. There's just been so much happening, and the after effects are going to go on for a while. And I think so. I think it's really, they could go on for a while. Let's be optimistic. They could go on for a while, and for some people, they will. And I would like to talk to you a bit today about how acupuncture and Chinese medicine can help you move through the post-COVID trauma. I don't know, it's been a little bit like snow globe experience, you know, like you're inside the snow globe and something has done this, and now what? And now what? So it's sort of a it's like aftershocks. It's like residuals of what happened. So what, from my perspective, what happened is this virus hit the world, and the first thing that was experienced was shock, particularly once countries started implementing protective things. It's like, holy hell, what just happened here? Um, and then that shock actually went on for quite a while, I think, for a lot of us. And then there was this sort of sense of like, nothing is normal. I may not be able to work. I may have to work when I'd rather stay home. It was a threat. The virus was a threat. And we have, instinctive reactions to threats. The difficulty with this threat is that it just keeps going. And so we never get a chance, we haven't yet gotten a chance to really sort this out. How did this affect us? And it's bigger than anything that the world has experienced ever, I think, because it's happening to everybody at the same time. It's a global threat with something that we have absolutely no control over. We're trying really, really hard to get as much control as we can, and thank heavens we have the researchers and the healthcare workers who are helping do that. They're gathering the data and they're analyzing, and we still don't know. We still don't know, and that unknowing is also a trauma. So we're all in the middle of this massive traumatic event, and that we need to be able to process that. So here's some of the things to think about. So this is like, you've probably heard and probably and also thought about yourself. It's like, before this happened, we had stress. We had workplace stress, we had family stress, we had stress. And most of us are aware of how stress affects our bodies and our minds and our spirits. In actual fact, stress costs our economy huge amounts of money every year for the side effects of stress, the anxiety, the depression, not being able to go to work, any kind of physical ailments that come up from stress, which, by the way, is quite almost all of them. They're all affected by stress. This is sort of taken stress to like stress on steroids level. And so we have the stress of what we are living through, and then we have anticipatory stress. Are we going to be able to go back to work? Is the world going to be different than it was when this happened, when this started? There's often quite a bit of fear around with that stress, the anticipatory stress in particular. There's the life upheaval. So let's just say that your job, you work as one of our blessed grocery store workers who were really not allowed to hide away from this. They had to. So there's the stress of being in the workforce and being potentially exposed to the virus. while their companies were trying to get up to speed with the kind of things that they needed to do to protect their workers. Um, that's a huge life upheaval. And I remember thinking when this was first happening, and I'd make an occasional foray into town and think the grocery store workers just looked terrified. So there's that fear, and the fear was compounded because they couldn't stay home. If they lost their jobs, they'd lose their health insurance. And then there's the fear of being sent home from a job. If you got lucky, you could telecommute. If it wasn't that kind of a job, you just have a job. And it goes, all these stories. It builds and builds and builds, and we're susceptible to it, to all of that stress if it's happening to us, but we're also susceptible to it because it's happening to people around us. And we're kind of like sponges. We absorb that going on. So there's the uncertainty and the loss. Is it a potential loss to life as we knew it? And maybe a sense of loss of like, I thought I had things figured out and my life was going to go, and now it's not going to do that. And what's it going to be like? And it could also be the loss of someone that you loved who got the virus and died. Right now, 1/3, this is probably an underestimate, but 1/3 of the people in our country are suffering from anxiety and depression. Huge number. So we we need to be able to address that in ourselves. And there are many, many, the social workers, the talk therapists, some of the medications, some of the doctors, the psychiatrists, all that. Everybody, all of us, are trying to come up with a plan about how to help each other navigate the effects of this trauma. And acupuncture actually could be a very good tool to add. Actually, I think that acupuncture would be an excellent tool for you to add to your self-care. And I'll try to remember to talk a little bit at the end about how you can do that, because certainly you could come see us, but you may not be close enough, or there may be think about having acupuncture. Just carry that in the back of your mind. Um, so we had the pre-COVID stressors, of which we also had a lot in this country. I don't know, the last 10 years, there's been this sort of buildup of very, very threatened or challenged or groups of people, and they sort of pop up, and you hear, there's the women's marches a few years ago because women were trying to say this is what we need and what we deserve and what we want. And certainly the um, protests, the anti-racism protests, has been going on here. That's not new. Those pressures, those stressors were there before this happened. So it's like the Band-Aid got ripped off a whole lot of stuff in our country, and those stressors are revealed. So stress kind of defines how we've been living for the last a long time. I don't even know. I'd have to go research that. But the stress of being, fairly safe and got a good life, but you have to work 3 jobs and you have kids. That's a stressor. So this virus, though, really that really blew the cover off, and because it is a threat to our health and to our sense of self, and also we perceive it as a threat to our futures, and to a certain degree it is an actual threat to our futures. So this all creates it's a dysregulation, like the body, mind, spirit in an individual is not functioning the way it should be, because there's been this constant, you know another shock, and here's another change, and here's another and the changes are hard. We haven't had a chance to absorb all of that stuff. So there will be that dysregulation, and the symptoms of that are what is often called trauma symptoms. So that will be, feeling disorganized, feeling confused, having anxiety, feeling depressed. What else is going on? Inability to focus, just going through every emotion possible in one day and then doing it again the next day. That's the symptoms of that. We're not going to really be able to resolve those truly unless we first try and help ourselves get lined up again, get that dysregulation straightened out. And I'm here to tell you that that is entirely possible. It will happen. And what we're trying to do now is get you as many tools to choose from to help you do that. I've been doing work with trauma survivors for my entire acupuncture career, which is close, God, it's getting close to, it's like 18, 19 years now. And also before then, before I became an acupuncturist, it is, it is possible to be able to work through all of this stuff and get yourself back on track within yourself. Are you going to be the same person you were before this happened? No, but you wouldn't have been the same person if it hadn't happened. We change from minute to minute, you know. So it's sort of a when a patient says to me, "I just want to be like I was," there's a couple of things that go through my head. The first one is, you want to be like you remember you were. That's not necessarily accurate, but okay, that's what you would like. It feels that memories of something better than where you are right now. But that's impossible. You can't turn back the clock. Everything causes a change. So one of the beautiful parts about acupuncture is that it can help you integrate all of that. It can help you digest it and decide what from that experience is something that you want to hang on to, that you find useful, and what you'd like to get rid of. And you can't just say, I'd like to erase the last 3 months, because I'm betting you that in those last 3 months, as difficult as they may have been for you, you also had moments that you would treasure. When I work with veterans who've seen combat, particularly the ones who were in Vietnam, um, I hear that a lot from them. I wish this never happened. I wish that I could be like I was before I went into the military. And one of the things I will say to them is, did you have friends? Do you all get up as some wild and crazy? Because my God, a bunch of like 18 to 20-year-old young men out of the supervision of their families, you know, they got some wild stories, some wild fun stories. If you erase all of that, then you've lost the memories of those friendships. So that that's a little, that could be a little hard for some people in the moment where we are right now. It's too much. Most of us are coming, most of the patients are coming in and saying, I'm just anxious all the time, and I don't want to be anxious anymore. Fine. We will work with that and we'll try and calm down those symptoms, but they will come back in some form if we don't get to this, address this dysregulation that's happened. Help you find your center again, and then help you do that digesting, decide what to keep and what you don't. The very cool part about acupuncture, I just have to say, is that you don't really have to talk about it. You know, there's certain, you tell us what you're looking for, what you'd like to work on. We'll ask a lot of questions, but you're absolutely free at any time to say, you know, I'm not going there, I don't want to talk about that. And that's okay, because we have other ways of diagnosing things. So it's not like it's not like we're standing in the room and reading your mind, but we can find out about what other information that we get through the pulse taking that we do that will guide our treatment. And you just, you just come in and let us help you rebuild your resources. You have to have them in order to navigate all of this. And then, you know, we might say, let's talk about some things you could be doing at home when you're ready to do that. So I'm kind of drifting off and getting a little wild and crazy with this now. So let me just think about what I'm actually trying to say here. We need to Because actually, honestly, this is a multi-part discussion. So let me just bring it back to this. We are going through still, although the immediacy of that has dropped, a period of time of threat. It is affecting the whole planet, not just a community here and a community there, but a whole planet. And it has the effect of really knocking our feet out from underneath us so that we don't know seriously what day of the week is it. The markers are gone, the sense of structure is gone. So we've got this time that we've have a threat that's there, feels like it's pulled back. I would ask you to be really careful to how you react to that, because it hasn't really pulled back. It's just we succeeded in flattening the curve, but the virus is still out there. So, and then we don't know. I mean, we never knew, but we don't know. We really know now that we don't know what the future is going to be like, and there's no sense of solid grounding in our lives. And what we would offer, what acupuncture would offer, would be to help you restore the resources that you have to cope with something like this, so that you can begin to sift through. Okay, this, I don't need this anymore. I just like, let's get this out of my life. But this part I'd like to hang on to. To do that well, we need to be sort of internally organized. You know, it's sort of internally organized in terms of how we walk our life. So you need and then we need the resources to be able to do that. And one of the problems when you have one impact after another, like we've been having this year, is the resources get drained. So my favorite example of that is talking about when my grandkids were young enough that they weren't allowed to come home from school by themselves, that sort of thing. And my daughter and her husband have very, you know, they have a lot of responsibility, including the kids. Your parents will understand exactly what I'm talking about. My daughter would get things organized. This is when you need to get up. This is when you need to be on the bus. This is when this needs to happen. Then I get to go do this and I get to go do that. It was really a beautiful plan. And then there'd be a snow day. And it was just one thing too much. All of her resources had been allocated to making this run smoothly, and something happened that just derailed it, and she could drag it up, which she often did, but she didn't have the resources in order to manage this next piece. Well, that's where we all are right now. If you wonder why you've been feeling exceptionally tired, one reason is because of all of the adjustments, all of the, you know, being conscious of being in the moment and recognizing what the next step is constantly, constantly. It wears us out. And we don't have the resources in order to deal with the next thing that's going to happen, which, by the way, is another fear that people have. So Chinese medicine can help you with that. And we do it with herbs, and we do it with things that you can do at home, and we do it with acupuncture. It's pretty astonishing what acupuncture itself can do. And when we add in things like, let's talk a little bit about what you're eating and that sort of stuff, this will be a tremendous help to you. And I promise you that if you're experiencing anxiety around this time, we can help you with that. Promise you. Because I know you can do it. I know you can recover from that. And I know that for a lot of you at the moment, it's just this feeling of like, man, I just don't have the strength to do this anymore. So we can help you get that back, because it's in us to do that. So I'm going to wind up here, because it kind of leaves me a way to segue into what I can talk about the next time I do a video. Put up on the screen in a minute how you can get in touch with us if you want to. I highly, highly encourage you, find an acupuncturist. It doesn't have to be us at our clinic. It could be wherever you are. There are acupuncturists around, quite likely. You could find a community clinic. They'll be opening soon. Um, but it's not like, and listen to the Calm app. That's quite helpful. And maybe have a psychologist or a shrink or a social worker that you talk to, or your own little created support group. They're all tools, and there's no one thing that's going to do all the work. So add us to your toolkit. Um, and by the way, this is a parting shot, because I may lead off with this the next time. So this is like a teaser for the next video. In all of the craziness in the beginning of this, where I would hear people talking about it. I'd see it on Facebook with people saying, well, if you take melatonin, then you won't get the virus. If you take massive vitamin C, you won't get the virus. If you do, there's just a lot of which is really good ideas. Never once did I hear, including from myself, maybe I ought to take this opportunity to, like, eat better, or make sure that I do more moving around, that I go take walks. Never, ever heard people saying that, let me take the opportunity to actually do things that I know will be good for me in order to get stronger. So think about that. And then we'll talk the next time I manage to get together to do another video. So let me put here's how you can get in touch with us if you want to. Up here on screen, you can call the clinic, you can send us an email, and certainly visit our website. There's a lot of resources that are on there for you to see. It's a ever-changing, ever-evolving website right now. One of the things that I did with my time while I was not able to go into the clinic was to revamp a lot of how we work and what our website looks like and how we explain what we do. So that's how you get in touch with us. And I hope that we hear from you. You can certainly follow us also on Facebook, and take very good care. Means a whole nother thing now, doesn't it? It's not like, just be safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.